Welcome to Soul Rising. We're your hosts, Amy and Erin. We're two everyday mediums who are passionate about taking the woo-woo out of spirituality and bringing it down to earth. So put the kettle on, grab a chair, and join us. Hello.
Hi. Whoa, that was a weird hi. I'm so sorry.
You're like, hello. We're having a laugh over here. So we're kind of like joining conversation mid high energy and excitement.
Yes,
About some good news that's, in the works. And so we're just kind of high
we're high
vibrational.
vibing. Yeah, so
And that's okay. And
this
we
whole
hope you can
episode is
feel
just
that.
going to be high vibe. Yeah, exactly. We hope you guys feel the energy that we're
Hey,
sending your way.
I think that's why I don't think you get it to this many episodes of a podcast with like our true authentic personality showing up without and like having people still listen unless they love the goofiness or
Yeah.
the high
Yep.
vibe ridiculousness. Um
Ridiculousness.
yeah, so it's been a while. We're
It
now
has.
in Libra season at time of recording. We're in the fall. Yesterday was the first day of autumn.
I
So
can't get
I'm
over it.
now in my favorite season ever.
Yep.
Um, I don't know what you are. You're a fall person too,
I
right?
love the fall.
You're like a fall winter person like me, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love
me
the
too.
fall, I love the
I used to
winter.
have a theory that like, and it was only because of my own family because I was the only like winter baby in my whole like extended family, really.
Right. Yeah.
Everyone else was like summer and spring,
Yeah.
including my siblings. And in fact, today is my brother's birthday, so happy birthday to him.
Happy
Um,
birthday.
but yeah, I was the only winter baby, and then I married a winter baby. Scott's a Capricorn like me, and then we had two winter babies. Two of our three kids are winter babies, and the everybody I know that's like born in the dead of winter loves the winter, and so it was just like this working. I know that doesn't work for everyone, obviously,
Yeah.
but for
Yeah.
me, I'm thinking of my aunt who is like, I think she's February 26th because she sandwiches in between. No, she's the 28th, sorry. The 28th of February, and she like hates winter. So I always think of her as that like outlier.
Yeah.
But like everyone else I know loves the winter. So this is my time of year. Like
Yeah.
I just looked down, it was 2:22 we've been recording for. Yeah, there's just an energy about like between the equinox and between then till the solstice. Like there's just something magical. The winter solstice, I mean.
I love it. I feel like this is a time of creating. I'm not sure
It's like
if you look
rebirth.
it up and that's like it would
Well,
say.
I think traditionally a lot of people would say autumn is a time when things die, right?
Yeah.
But yes, but in order for a new to come, something has to die, right? Like, so yeah, I think it gives the promise of rebirth.
Yeah.
Like I think fall gives the promise of spring.
Yeah.
And just like the timings of the season, like it helps me really trust into kind of just like this natural innate timing of everything, including myself and situations that happen. Like the seasons just know when it's like fall knows when we're just kind of sort of getting sick of summer, and then it's like, oh, here's fall, and then it's like, here's winter,
Yeah.
and then when we're really sick of winter, spring comes back
Spring
around.
comes
So
in. Yeah.
yeah, all the numbers today. Look down, it was 3:33. So I think, oh, a fly just walked right over my video. Did you see that?
I did.
It
It was
was
not a
creepy.
ghost, guys. It was just a fly.
It was a fly. There's like one fly that's been in my office and it just will not leave. And I even like went and got those little sticky things you can stick
Yeah.
to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
And
know what you
it
mean.
like just won't fly to the sticky thing.
It knows. It just
Well,
knows.
it's dark down here, right? And all of a sudden I'm sitting down here with just my like desk light
Yeah.
on. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah. So what's new in general?
I don't even know. Not a ton. Been seeing a lot of family, so that's been really nice. Went up to Ottawa the other weekend, or last weekend,
Mm-hmm.
and just this past weekend we visited Alex's cousin and aunt or uncle. His aunt was working, but we visited them, so that was really nice. And just been seeing
So
a lot of
nice.
family. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been
Oh my
busy.
God. I just looked down. I'm like, I have to stop. It's like I'm not constantly looking at the clock, but I did just look down and it was 4:44. Like that's wild. That's wild. I'm gonna like avoid well because I'm looking at you,
What?
right, and right below you is the clock to
Yeah,
how long we've been recording.
yeah.
So
Every time you look down, it's all double.
yeah,
They're double digits. Now, I've had a
which
lot of.
is
What do you usually say to clients or people that come to you and are like, I keep seeing these numbers every time I look down? Because I recently had a question about that. So, what do you usually think seeing repetitive numbers like that is?
so for me, I used to be like, a lot of other people, a lot of listeners probably are. And anytime I would see a number like that, I would Google, what does this mean?
Yes, same.
And there's not throwing shade on that because I think that we all do that, and that's okay. If that's your preferred method of finding out what that means. But eventually, like the more kind of I deepened my intuitive connection and like my kind of like ability to communicate with my own spirit and my own guides, I kind of changed that to asking myself what it means. So I rarely Google it anymore. Sometimes I will Google it just to like see if it validates what I feel like it means. But
Yeah,
more often than not, I will say it's a spirit wink. So it's no different than like you. I don't know, seeing a spirit sign or asking to see a frog and then seeing. I always bring up that license plate because it's your
yeah,
example,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then seeing the frog on the license plate. Like I think it's a hey, um, like you're doing okay, you're doing good. Like I think
We're
it's a
here.
spirit wink, right?
Yeah.
So I always think to myself, what was I just talking about, thinking about, or doing?
Hmm.
Because I feel like you then seeing that number is saying like pay attention to this, or this is really aligned, or keep going with this, like keep going down this this path. So that's what I always tell people to do, is just kind of like, okay, well, what does it mean that when Erin and I are talking we see 222, 333, and 444? Like to me it means that someone is celebrating that we're back together, that we're chatting again,
Yeah,
that we're going to be talking about certain things that are going to resonate with
yeah,
someone or help someone. So for me, I see it as encouragement versus like, this means this specifically. Because I think that if you were to like Google, what does 444 mean? There might be some commonalities, but there probably could be things all
a
over
lot of
the park.
differences. Yeah.
And I think that's because that is just like one person's intuitive feeling about it versus what it absolutely means for you.
Yeah. I
Okay.
think that's a great explanation. Yeah. I love that too. Spirit wink.
A spirit way. And then it helps you like, because I think the whole point of this, and I know it's difficult when you're on the spiritual journey, at least in the beginning, because it
Hmm.
feels like very overwhelming and it feels like there's a lot to it. But like you and I are here to simplify it and to make it more mainstream, I guess, and normal, quote unquote.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be over simplified. Like the whole purpose of everything is so that you begin to go, what does this mean to me? And then listen and respond to that.
Yeah.
Like it's supposed to, spirituality is supposed to like connect you to yourself.
Mm,
I don't Google things anymore. I
that
did Google the
though.
definition of something today, but like for the most part, I'm not like Googling things anymore
No, but I think
because
that's okay. And you're
yeah,
right that it's, what did you just say? Spirituality is
connecting you to yourself.
connecting you to yourself. Because it is, it's
It
such a
is.
personal journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's so personal, right?
Mm-hmm. That's why I'm like really getting in my head lately. So I'll tell you something. You know how sometimes I like, oh, hold myself back from. It's funny because I don't hold myself back in certain ways, and then other ways I'm like,
Yep.
why am I sitting on this? I know it has to do with like insecurity around like I really have high expectations for myself, and so I'm like really comfortable with like working with people one on one or in small groups. But I'll tell you where I'm going with this. I've had in the last 2 weeks, I've had 4 people reach out to me by email. Like they personally just sent me an email to ask me if I would mentor them. And so it's not even like I'm putting a call to action out and like, hey, I'm looking for students. It's like they're
They're
seeking
reaching
me out
out.
and say, can you teach me, please? And I am having trouble making a move. I feel like I'm frozen.
Mm,
Um, I don't know what it is. And I think part of it is because I know that like spirituality is so deeply personal. But my guides keep reminding me, like, you don't have to give people like, an 8-step program. Like, you can draw out of someone personally out of their energy, like
Can
what
be
will work for them.
individualized. Yeah.
You can individualize it, because I think that part of me is like, well, I can't just like make something general because I want this. I think that my heart's in the right place. Like I know that because I want it to be impactful for them,
Yeah.
and I want them to walk away going like, wow, like my connection to myself has totally changed.
Yep.
And so I don't want to be just like everybody and give you like an 8-step program to
Yeah.
developing your intuition.
Yep.
So that's like where I get in my
Yeah, yeah,
head
yeah.
about it,
Well, I
because
think
I'm like,
that's totally normal though too, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's completely fair. And it's also a good reminder for people and for, just a general for us, like we're only human,
Definitely. We're
you
all
know?
human. We're all, and I love to show that side of ourselves to other people. It's like there's nobody that's not, I think even the like most like highly revered spiritual person probably still moves through the fear,
Oh my
right?
God. Well, I have
Like they're
moments where
like,
I'm like, don't say this, or I have my own fears of like, don't say that, and then it's like they say it, and I'm like, oh, I should have said it, what I mean? Or I'm giving a reading, I'm like, I'm getting it, but I'm like, oh, that doesn't make sense to it.
yeah,
It happens. I think it happens, and I think it's normal for I don't know for
yep.
mediums to do that.
Hmm.
Um,
Somebody once told me, if you're nervous, if you're like, if you are worried about being an imposter when like you're obviously not, like nobody else sees that in you, but like you are like, it just means that you give a shit. Like it's actually a good thing.
yeah,
So don't let that stop you.
yep,
It
yeah,
just means that you
absolutely.
really care.
Means that you
Yeah.
care. Yeah.
It means you care. Yeah. I've been like really pushing myself out of my comfort zone in the last couple of months, just in terms of like what I'm sharing on social
Hmm.
media.
I've
So like,
noticed that too.
have you noticed?
Yeah.
I've yeah, I've had a lot of messages come through where people are like, "You're like, this is the true definition of leadership because you're actually showing us all sides of yourself." And I'm like, oh, "Okay, thank you." But like, my grief journey after Nanny
Yeah.
died, I was coming on like for like every day for a week crying, like
Yeah.
talking about my grief, and I had to work through a little bit of discomfort. There's resistance there,
Yeah.
of course.
It's a very
And
personal experience that you're sharing with people, right? But I think that it also can really help people when they see that.
I feel like grief, I mean, obviously as a medium, grief shows up. I'm working with populations of people that are grieving, and so grief is like a topic that
Yeah.
obviously is a big piece of the work that I do.
Hmm.
But I just feel like that's showing itself to me a lot lately, as in it's like this is something that you're here to help with.
Yeah.
In a more obvious way. Like obviously I knew like, okay, I'm a medium, I'm gonna help people with grieving, but like actually making grief a topic that people talk about. Right? And I think that's something that
Because
we need
grief,
to do.
death, dying, these are all things that we don't talk about, right?
But every single person will be
But we all
impacted
go through
with
it,
death at some point in their life.
whether that's a
Yeah.
literal or even metaphorical death that
Yes.
you're grieving,
Mhm.
the loss of something,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's like this universal thing that every single person deals with and nobody talks about, and it's just one of those things we have to change. We have to
Yeah.
change. So,
Yeah.
yeah, there's that, and then the other day I actually, I know you saw it because you liked it. I think I shared a comment that I got on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is not the first comment that I've received on YouTube from
First of
someone
many.
who likes to spin things or, kind of say that I'm doing something
Mhm.
wrong because I'm
Mhm.
going against God or religion or what have you. And I know that religion and God is a personal thing, just as spirituality is. But my response to this person, after I had a moment to like sit with it, I'm like, huh. Like I've grown because
Yeah.
I don't need to justify myself to that person. Like I didn't say anything that was like defensive. It was just
No.
like, this is who I am, and I don't really give a shit what you think about me. I didn't
Yeah.
ask for your opinion, and I'm not going
Well,
to change who I
thank you so
am.
much. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Like I literally
Yeah.
said like, good luck on your journey. Like, and I truly mean that. And so religion is one of those hot, button kind of topics too that's like, oh, should I talk about that? It's like one of those things like death and politics and taxes and all that kind of stuff that we don't like to talk about.
Yep.
But it's like, if it's showing up in my world, then I feel like I'm meant to respond to it. But I could notice the difference in my response.
Mm.
And then I was talking to a couple people off camera. One person who's a friend of this podcast, Nikki,
Shout
is actually going
out.
to Nikki, shout out to Nikki. She's actually going to come on to my solo podcast. We're going to talk about this because you know that she has like a background in growing up very religious, but
Yes.
also
Yeah, I
is
feel like yeah.
very spiritually minded and,
Mhm,
open.
mhm.
And so I think she's going to give a really cool
That'll be a
perspective
really great.
on all of that.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good one that I'm excited about. And where was I going with this? I don't know, but that's okay. Oh, because somebody said to me, "Do you listen to Mel Robbins?" And I said, "Yeah, but not religiously, but yes, I follow her. I don't listen to her podcast. Maybe I should start." But she said she has this thing where lately she just says, "Let them." And
Mm.
as I said it, and as I say it now, I get goosebumps. Let them think what they want. Let them say what they want. Let them. It's nothing to do with you. Just let them do it. And I was like, how powerful is that statement?
Yep.
Let them.
Let them.
Let them do
I mean,
it.
you can't stop it. Like, yeah.
What am I gonna do? But
We're gonna-
that's the point though. When we
yeah.
get so offended by some it's not very nice to go on somebody's YouTube and leave a nasty comment. That person is not asking for your opinion, right? You doing it is kind of why? Why do you need to do that, right?
Mhm,
If
mhm.
I was feeling the need to go on somebody's social media and leave a nasty comment, I personally would be like, what is triggering me about this? But I know not everybody has that level of awareness, right? But why does that bug me so much?
Mhm.
And I think that's important too, because it's it's okay to be triggered. Some people think you
Yep.
can't be triggered when you're on the spiritual path.
No, that's
No, I think
bullshit.
that's part of it. I
Right.
think it's part of it. It's it's going to show up what you need to kind of be aware of. How do you grow from
How do you
something, right?
navigate
So
through that? Like, you have to,
yeah,
in order to grow through something,
to go through
you
it.
got to go through it. Yeah.
You got to go through it. Yeah. So triggers aren't a bad thing.
No, it's going to
It's
happen. It
just
comes up in our everyday lives.
absolutely. And
I
yeah,
call
it's just one of
BS
those.
on anybody who is, quote unquote spiritual and saying we don't get triggered or
Well,
we are. I don't.
that's spiritual bypassing.
Yeah.
I think the real growth is not that you don't get triggered, and I think that we need to take that out of the equation. It's more how do I respond to it? How do
Hmm.
I respond to the trigger?
Yeah.
Am I obsessively thinking about it for 4 days? Am I responding in a really heightened emotion and really letting it affect me?
Yeah.
Or am I just
Totally.
what is that about? What is it about that makes me feel this way? And then just kind of digesting it and leaving it as that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. So we're here to talk about nostalgia
Thanks
today,
for us.
which
We're
which
like
is not the same thing, but we had to play catch up.
we had to
It's
catch up.
okay. Um, and this came about because last night we were just kind of touching base, still good for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I shared that I was watching Home Improvement at the time.
Yeah, I love
So
it. Which
if you're
I was rewatching that not too long ago because now it's on Disney Plus.
It's on Disney. Yeah, that's where I was watching it. I was watching it with two of my kids, and I was like, "You want to see something that I would have watched when I was a teenager?" And they're like, "You watched this when you were a teenager? Oh my god!" So they think it's
So
dumb, right? But
weird, right?
TV's so different.
It is.
It used to be so wholesome.
Yeah.
It was like TGIF. It's Friday
Oh, I
night.
love
Yay!
that, right? You had all these
Yeah,
different shows on. It's so
yeah,
fun.
yeah.
Yeah. Yes,
But
used
yeah,
to
we
that.
started talking about nostalgia.
Yeah. And I was like, Alex and I have been rewatching. Well, I used to watch it on and off when I was younger, but Frasier, we've been watching Frasier,
Hmm.
which is a pretty good show. I mean, definitely dated
Yeah,
with some of the topics, but it's very funny,
it was a different time.
different time. And then we also have been rewatching. Do you remember Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yes, I
And
do.
Goosebumps.
Mm. Love it.
Yeah.
Is Alex the same age as you? Thereabouts, within a year or
Yeah,
so?
he's a year older than me.
Yeah. So the same kind of generation.
Yeah.
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 So we were just like, oh
That's
my
cool.
God. I was like, we have to watch the episode with Slappy. And so if you guys know Goosebumps, you remember Slappy. And he's like, who's
I remember
Slappy?
Slappy.
I'm like, how do you not remember Slappy? Come on. He was like,
Yeah.
I think they like brought him back a few times, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's been some, like, Goosebumps movies that have come out, like, in the last
I
couple of years.
know. Wasn't one was with Jack Black? Did I make that up? I can't remember.
I
Doesn't
don't know,
matter.
I can't
I'm
remember, but I
old.
know it was a few years ago. I remember seeing well, I think there's been a second one that's
Yeah,
come out since, but went to the theater to see one with one of my kids.
definitely a little
But
bit
I think
different.
Slappy was in the
Yeah, he
movie
was.
or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, okay,
And they're
I'm
bringing
not
back.
making this up then.
They're doing a TV show of Goosebumps. They're
Cool,
bringing it
like the
back as a
next
little series.
generation of
Yeah,
Goosebumps,
yeah.
like the next generation of Degrassi.
Oh my
Oh my
God,
god, Degrassi was
Degrassi!
the shit back in the day. Like, I know that I'm a decade older than you, but, like, I'm telling you, like, 1989 Degrassi was, like, the shit.
Oh,
I was,
see,
like, 9 years old, and
yeah,
it was a little risque even for me,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I still remember it might have come out even before that, but I was too young to for it to be on my radar. A couple of my friends and I were recently talking about that because I think I was in, like, grade 6, maybe. It was, like, 92, 91. And do you remember did you watch Degrassi?
Well,
Or
I
did you
watched Degrassi: The Next Generation.
Next Generation, see, that's our generational difference. So, like, the original one,
I watched the
and
original that
all
was
those people are, like,
no,
even older than me now.
okay.
The Next Generation was, like, the generation under me, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
But, like, there was this movie that came out that, like, aired on CBC. It was, like, over the Christmas vacation. I think it was, like, right maybe in the new year, but before we went back to school, because I remember I stayed up late for it. And I went in the basement. I remember, like, making a snack. It was, like, a whole event, and it was on CBC, and I was like, "Oh." And it was called School's Out, okay? And
Okay.
it was a movie about the Degrassi characters.
Oh,
And there's a certain line in it and like where the person swears, right? And we were like, "Oh!" Like it was like so risque for the show and for CBC and we were like, "Oh my
I
god."
can't
And
believe they just did that.
I know, and it was like, "Oh my god!" But a few friends of mine recently were talking about that. Remember, we were like, "Remember when? Like that was like such a big
Big
friggin' deal."
deal.
And now it'd be like nothing. But I love that. The reason I felt like maybe we should talk about nostalgia today is because it's not necessarily like a spiritual thing, but like maybe it is. Like I don't know. The reason it might be through that lens is I've noticed not just you and I, but I've noticed a lot of people, whether it's like people in my life or people on social media, are kind of like into nostalgic shows or movies, or people are like rewatching things,
Well, they're coming
or
out, I think, with
they're
all
coming
of
out
these
again.
movies and like TV shows and bringing things back. So I definitely can see, like, I feel like it's bringing that nostalgia up for people. That new Ninja Turtles movie, the Barbie movie.
Yeah.
There's going to be
So
so
let
much
me
that comes out. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, sorry. And let me give you the definition according to the Webster's Dictionary. Nostalgia is a wistful or excessively sentimental yearning for return to or of some past period or irrecoverable condition. Also, so it says something that evokes nostalgia, the state of being homesick or homesickness.
Mm,
And I thought this was really interesting. I'm like, why is this collectively like? Why are people that make TV shows and movies bringing old things back? Is it just like a cycle that always happens, or is there something more to it? Like, are we feeling kind of lost? And because it's coming after the pandemic,
hmm.
it's like the pandemic happened, and then now all this nostalgia is happening, or like these reboots are
Reboots of
happening.
things. Yeah.
So it's like, are they just running out of ideas, or is there something deeper here? Like we are kind of wanting to return to a simpler time.
That could be it. I mean, even the fashion. I know fashion
Let
always
me tell you.
recycles and comes back, but it's true.
Definitely. Yeah, like I have two teens, right? One is 17 and a half, and the things that she's into, I'm like, I should have saved my clothes from 1996. Like, I'm serious. Like, she used to make fun of me when she would look at pictures from my teen years, and I'm like, now she's like, you should have saved that shirt. And I'm like, right? Right? You would have totally worn
You
that
would have
shirt.
wanted it.
It's so like it's definitely repeated itself,
Yeah.
which is kind of interesting too, because when I was a teenager in the 90s, I was obsessed with all things 1970s. So I was like, oh, I wish I was born in the 70s. Like that's the time that
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
like my soul is from. And like so I wore the big old bell bottoms and
Yeah,
the platform Mary Janes and like all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
It's interesting. It's like I was reliving my parents' time.
yeah.
My kids are reliving my time, my youth.
Well, I wonder,
Um,
like, as we're talking about this, like, the thing that comes up is with nostalgia, I always think about like your own inner child and um,
Mhm.
reconnecting with that part of you.
Mhm.
Um, and I feel like all these things, I mean, yeah, I think there's a variety of factors why some of these things are coming
Yeah.
back. But if we're looking at it like on a much like deeper kind of spiritual scale, understanding of what
Mhm.
could be happening is it's about maybe like reconnecting with that childhood part of you and bringing that
Mhm.
fun back. Because I also feel
Mhm.
like there's so much heaviness. I mean, when is there not in the world, right? We're going through a lot of stuff, a lot of
Mhm.
changes, right? And change is sometimes very difficult and hard. And I think some of these things come back so that we can take a pause and be reminded of, the good and the positive
Mhm.
and that
Mhm.
fun, playful stuff again. Like
Mhm.
I think it's a chance to reconnect with that side of yourself in
I
the midst of
agree.
all this chaos that's going
I
on.
think it helps us. Yeah, because you think about, like, when you're a kid, if, like, you were going through some transition or there was something coming up you were anxious about or nervous about, like, you would wanna be comforted. Like, you might get out your favorite, like, sleeping bag or blanket. You'd, like, want a comforting snack. You'd put on that, like, favorite feel-good show or movie, and, like, that's what you would do, and it's like, collectively as adults, like, we're doing that for
Yep.
ourselves.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Because I've been like really on the nostalgia train. I've been like watching things that came out, like not even just in childhood, but like in very early adulthood. Like I shared with you last night, this season, like from like mid June until like I just finished a couple days ago. So for a 3 month period, I binge watched all 9 seasons of One Tree Hill, which by the way, I didn't watch at that time.
Oh, so
So it
you,
came out and yeah, I just watched it for the first time.
yeah,
So like it came out in 2023 and it ended in 2012. So it's like a whole generational, like kind of glimpse at the
2023,
early,
2000
or
and
sorry, 2012,
2000
2003 to
2003, 2012.
2012. Yeah. So like I was 23 and all of those actors were also like 23, but like, they were playing high schoolers obviously, but it's like a
Typical for
snapshot of the early 2000s, right? Which is like so like a happy time. I was like in university, I met Scott, and we kind of moved in and did the whole house baby thing in like 2005. So like it just brings back that kind of simple time too.
those
So
memories.
I really enjoyed watching that. Any One Tree Hill fans here will understand
Yeah.
and get it. I'm now like obsessed with all things One Tree Hill. um
I,
I want to go to North Carolina and like walk across the bridge. Have you ever watched this show?
I've watched bits and pieces of it. Like I
Mm,
never, I think some of my friends watched it. I think I remember going over and watching an episode with them, but I
mhm.
never like watched it fully through.
You should.
I think Alex did though.
Hmm.
I'll put that on my list.
Put it on your list as something through the cold winter months.
Let's catch up.
You
Right.
can sink down. The episodes are so easy to get through. It's like, oh my God, I just watched 4 episodes. It's like 2 in the morning. Um, yeah, so it's interesting. I never thought about nostalgia as a state of being homesick or homesickness.
Neither have I. I wonder if, like, as soon as you said that, the thing that came through, not the only thing, but the thing that came to my mind immediately was that moment when I was a kid and I was upset with my mom and I said, I want to go home. I want to go home. And my mom's like, what the heck are you talking about? You're home. But I think that home is where we are all kind of from, the collective.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
I'm wondering if that's kind of linked. Maybe I'm stretching here a little bit, but that's what came to my mind a little bit is the
Hmm.
feeling of
Hmm. A yearning for something, or like a feel, because I think like home is an innately, like if you're talking about home as a feeling, it's a place that you feel safe and secure,
mhm, mhm.
right? Like in general, like would there be any other words that you can think of that would describe a feeling inside of home other than safe,
Safe,
secure?
secure. I mean, well, home can also be within yourself.
Well, that's what I mean, like as a general term of home, whether it's like an actual like, because not everybody's like physical home was safe or secure, like at times,
Sure.
including my own,
Yep.
right? So it's like, okay,
Yep.
but like what does home mean? Like, but if you're yearning for home, because I think we always are, even in the absence of feeling safe or
What's a
secure,
safe
like
and secure
what is
place?
what is home? Like is home like in yourself? safe and secure. Like, I'm just trying to think if there's other words. Those are the two that come to my mind.
Once, when I first
Um,
started going to therapy, my therapist said, okay, let's do an exercise. And maybe this is coming up because it might help others. So, do an exercise where you close your eyes, you take a deep breath, and you think about that safe space for yourself.
mhm,
Where are you? Are you outside
mhm,
in nature? Are you in um, a place that was very safe for you as a child? What does that place look like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like?
mhm,
Different things like that. And she said, anytime you're feeling like anxious or you feel those kind of anxious thoughts creeping up again, you can try to use that image to go back to that safe space to see if it
mhm.
helps.
Yeah.
For me, when I first did it, I was very surprised. And I looked at that as almost two my guides coming through, right? Because anytime I'm
Mhm,
doing breath work or I'm kind of doing that, I can't help but try to but link the two, right?
mhm,
Or to my higher self, whatever
mhm,
that looks like, right? So the thing that immediately came through was the library, which is wild because I was like, I would never have imagined that. For me, I would be like, automatically, if you would have said it to me without me even like taking a deep breath, I'd probably say somewhere in nature. But it was the library, and I could see little
mm,
Erin snuggled up. I used to have like a really big,
mhm,
giant stuffed tiger, and I would like
mhm.
snuggle up against him, and I would like looking at
Your
books.
book?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I intuitively feel like mine would also be at the library or like because for me, like I've shared, I won't go into detail, but I have shared before that like childhood wasn't always easy for me.
Mhm.
One thing that I always had as a comfort, like even more so than TV, like TV wasn't something that was like an everyday thing for me. It might be like TGIF or like when they did the Monday night stuff with
Yeah.
like Fresh Prince and Blossom, I would watch it. But for the most part, it was like books,
Books.
books, books, books. And I would lose myself in books to the point where sometimes it wasn't healthy. Like I was avoiding life
You should try
to
to
kind of,
escape. Yeah.
right? To escape. But yeah, but books always fill me with that feeling of safety and security. And even now, like if I go, I've sometimes, you ever find yourself on autopilot and you're like, I don't know why I'm here or how I ended up here. Um, I
Oh,
find
yeah.
that sometimes I'll have that feeling like when I go into like a bookstore
Mhm.
or a library and I'll be like, how did I get
Yeah.
here? Like it's just, I needed to be there and it's quiet.
Yeah.
Right. And I just, and it's almost like sometimes the books create this buffer of sound. It almost feels like you're in a little, I don't
It's
know,
true. There
a
is
little
like kind
bubble.
of a security or a
Yeah,
safe space. Yeah. If
I
people can
agree.
relate, they may understand or like
Yeah. And I
feel
think there's like
similarly.
there's collective, like kind of things that are like, if we think about a library, like a lot of people are going to just collectively, something that we just know and associate with a library is quiet.
Hmm.
Like you don't go to a library and
Trigger.
yell
Yeah.
or like blast your music. Like it's just ingrained in us. This is a quiet space. So even if you go in there, you might be talking like this and not realize that you're doing it
You might
because
whisper
it's
like,
so.
"Hey."
Speaking of whisper, with this new mic, Scott, like what Scott was listening to my differences in my episodes or whatever, and he's like, "You could totally get into like ASMR," and I'm like, "Ew, no."
That's a totally different podcast, that.
That's a whole other podcast.
Maybe you want to
It's like
make
you
it
could just like,
OnlyFans?
yeah, you're right. But like talking about library books, like I'm sure there's somebody out there that's like, yeah. Um,
Yeah, open that
uh,
page. Sorry. 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 Wow.
smell the dustiness, like, oh, sorry, we're like way off topic. Let's talk about, I'm on a page called verywellmind.com,
Yes.
types of nostalgia. This is interesting. They say there's positive nostalgia and negative nostalgia.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, because stuff could bring things back up. It could trigger.
If you're like, yeah, if you're like living in the past or not able to move beyond something. Remember how I said that sometimes books was a unhealthy escape
Yep.
for me? So,
Yep.
so it says positive nostalgia is characterized by happy, rose-tinted memories of the past. It's often associated with feelings of warmth, happiness, and comfort. Negative, on the other hand, is characterized by a bittersweet or even painful memories of the
Mm.
past, and it's often associated with longing, sadness, and regret. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And then to take it even further, it said it can be divided into three categories. Personal nostalgia is characterized by memories of specific people or events from one's own life. Social nostalgia is characterized by memories of a time when one felt more connected to others. So I'm pointing these things out because I think this is like our collective message about nostalgia,
Yeah.
maybe. Cultural nostalgia is characterized by memories of a time when one felt more connected to their culture. So interesting. Well, I'm kind of thinking of like generationally. So a lot of us are going back to those childhood
Yeah.
TV shows and things like that. Social nostalgia is characterized by memories when one is more connected to others. It's interesting because I was connecting this or seeing this kind of pattern of like, okay, pandemic, we're kind of we're isolated, and now we're in this new era where we're yearning for the connection again. So if we can't
Connection.
do that in our own
Yeah.
life, maybe in a way that like is meaningful, maybe we would seek for it in that way, like TV, books,
Mhm.
movies. Yeah, that's really cool. I never really thought about that because we want to connect to others. So we're going back to a time when we felt more
More
connected to
connected
others.
because
Yeah.
we're kind of in a time where there's a lot of disconnect.
Right. And like when I was saying like a simpler time, like I'm not saying that things were all great in the 90s. You can literally watch the 90s television show and be like, "Oh my God, this is so
Oh
like
yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep.
like this is not okay," right? I was listening to, Home Improvement last night and some of the comments that Tim the Tool Man Taylor said. I'm like, "This is very inappropriate, Mr. Tim Allen," right? Like we
Yeah.
wouldn't say
We
this
wouldn't.
today,
Yeah.
but we can see beyond it. Some benefits of being nostalgic: boosting mood,
Mhm.
increasing self-esteem,
Yeah.
providing a sense of social support,
Yeah.
helping people cope with difficult life transitions,
Yes.
which is interesting because I was connecting that to transitional because we're in a
Mhm.
transitional time.
Yeah.
So isn't that
Yeah.
cool? I thought that was
That's really
interesting.
cool.
Do you have any
I like that.
oh look, it says nostalgia can also have a positive effect on physical health. For example, nostalgic has been shown to boost immune function and reduce stress
I can
levels.
see that. Well, if it's bringing you joy and happiness, if you're reducing your stress, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it can help increase life satisfaction and reduce anxiety.
I like it.
So I guess the purpose of this is to talk about things that we've been nostalgic about and how this connects to the greater kind of collective message.
Mhm.
Because you and I both agree that like things come in like because I think everybody channels, right? So if there's like if you're noticing a theme in things,
Yes.
or I feel like there's a greater message behind that, right? Like so it's like the music of the 70s.
Mhm.
Why was everybody writing about certain things? Like why was everybody, what was that theme and what was that trying to tell us at that time, at that point in time? And now like what is this
What's this
trying to
trying to
tell
tell
us?
us? Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Because
Hmm.
everything comes, right? There's a lot of ebbs and flows, and
Hmm.
everything, like on a global scale, happen. I think you feel similarly that it happens for,
Hmm.
there's some reasoning behind it. There's some lesson. We're learning something. We're trying to evolve and grow,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Absolutely. What are you guys feeling nostalgic about? We'd love to hear about it. If you are watching this on YouTube, leave a comment below and let us know what you are loving lately, making you feel all the
Yes.
feels. We'd love to know.
Give us some shows to watch or movies.
Yeah. Yeah. Let us know for sure. Okay, everyone. Thanks for
Thank
listening,
you.
and we'll see you back here in a couple weeks. Bye.
If you like what you're hearing, don't forget to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast and tune in each week as we dish on all things spiritual.
Don't forget to like, comment on what you would like to hear us talk about next, and subscribe.